In the previous video of this series, we showed how the power strip wiring was run. In this video, we are looking at building and mounting the table. We received no compensation for the use of or mention of products or companies in this video. The table that I built is designed to give us more room when it's not needed, and more table when we have visitors. To do this, I started with a 25 by 48 inch sheet of 3/4 inch plywood. The sliding part of the table is the first cut. This section is 18.5 inches long so that it will fit into the cabinet. I don't have a table saw, so I use a circular saw to make the cuts. In order to make these cuts as smooth and as straight as possible, I use a guide to hold the saw against while making the cuts. This is just clamped to the plywood, and then I make the cut. When we disassembled the old dinette, I saved any and all pieces I thought I could use. This included the oak edges of the old table. These were in good condition and will give the new table a decorative edge without me having to make new versions. These are held together with screws that use pocket holes at an angle. The width of the opening determined the width of the plywood. With the size of the opening on hand, I measured and then cut the plywood to match. I always trial fit parts so I can be sure that it will fit before I put the fasteners in. The oak pieces for the sides were longer than I needed, so I cut them shorter. I knew that I would be cutting this section smaller later, so this was to make it easier to handle until then. When I make cuts like this on thinner sections of wood, I use a rafter square as a guide to keep the cut straight and square. There are pocket hole guides that make drilling pocket holes repeatable and accurate. But as I don't always use pocket holes, here is a quick and dirty way that I use to do the same thing. Using a step drill, I start with a drill pointed perpendicular to the surface. Then when the hole is started, I tilt the drill at an angle to have it come out of the edge of the wood. By using pocket holes, I can attach the edges without any additional holes that would be visible on the edges. Now that the edges were attached, I could establish how long the main section of the table would be. This worked out to be 29 inches. Now I could put the slides on the cabinet. I started by measuring the location and marking it. Then I could put one screw in the front of the slide, then double check the measurements before putting in more screws. Then just duplicate it on the other side. After attaching the slides to the cabinet, I attached the other part of the slides to the plywood supports of the slide section of the table. With those attached, I could then put them in place and then glue and screw the top onto the supports. Then I found out why I shouldn't depend on caffeine to keep me alert when making measurements. I had the slides 1 inch too low for the table. Not a real problem, I just needed to raise the slides on the inside of the cabinet. With the table slide in the right position, I could then attach the slide section to the main table. For this I used a piano hinge attached to the bottom of the table. I cut it to the right size with a hacksaw. Then I aligned the hinge so that the main section would swing slightly away from the slide section. Then I just screwed the two sections to the hinge. This shows from the bottom how the hinge works. Then I finish putting all of the screws in the hinge. With the hinge installed, I then put the slide section back on the drawer slides and it was ready to test. As you can see, the main section can be pivoted down out of the way or be up as a table for two. Then when it is up and pulled out, the table will seat four. I still need to make the folding table leg that will hold the end of the table up in either position. And I'm also going to be adding a latch to hold the slide section in place in either position.
Thanks for watching our video. If you like what you see, press the like button below and subscribe. And also check out our other videos.